Full duplex, full duplex is when both stations can transmit and receive signals simultaneously or at the same time. A repeater operates in full duplex mode, right? So as soon as it's receiving, it's transmitting at the same time and vice versa. So it works pretty cool. Because users of a repeater cannot transmit and receive simultaneously, the stations are actually operating in what we call a half duplex mode. Okay, so if somebody says the difference between simplex, full duplex, and half duplex, there you go. When making a contact through a repeater, it's important to make sure that you are on the correct pair of frequencies, right? If you don't have your frequency pair set up correct, it ain't gonna work. You have your input, your output frequencies. Okay, the frequency the repeater receives is the input, and the frequency that your station will be transmitting is the output. So, yeah, so input and output. So that's why when you get a radio and new hams are wondering, well, it's asking for two things, an input and output. What do they mean by that? This is exactly what they're meaning by that. Repeaters are commonly referred to by their transmit frequency. Okay, this is the receive frequency displayed on your radio. So when we refer to RMI, we say 147.27. And it was quite interesting, years and years ago, the radios, whether it was a straight 2 meter or the new dual band radios that came out back in the 80s, they didn't have the alphanumeric displays on them, all right? So some of the older radios, you'd have to punch in the frequency. Now what happens is I turn on my radio and I program it and I'm flipping V3 RMI, V3 SRG, V3 TOP, V3 LTR, V3. And if I were to say to somebody, okay, what's the frequency of V3 RII? What's the frequency of RII without looking it up? Okay, don't all yell at once, all right?
I have no idea because I don't have it programmed into my radio.
Well, exactly. And that's the thing. RII is 444.175. Okay, but the thing is, before we asked that, for instance, what's the frequency of TOP? Now, the people in Elliott Lake may know that, but the new hams on Manitoulin,
that's an easy one.
They may not have a clue. All right. And the reason being, before we all knew what the frequencies were. I'll see you on 060, or I'll see you on 000, or I'll see you on 270, or I'll see you on 670, or I'll see
we
you
all
on.
have alphanumeric displays. That's
right. So, you know, it's good to know the frequency too. Besides that, because if you go to an emergency system and the incident commander comes to you and says, all right, everyone, I need you to go over. My understanding is that the V3 LTR repeater in Kagawon is going to be used. Everyone, please program your radios to LTR. Everybody's going to be flipping through LTR. What's the frequency of LTR, right? So it's good to know the frequency that your repeater is.
LTR 146.67.
You got her. With a positive or negative split.
What do you mean, cheater?
That's the office equipment company that I work for in Florida. They didn't expect you to know everything, but they expected you to know where to go to find out.
Yeah.
Most of the tests were open book.
And what we would do is we'd have radios pre-programmed to that. So your radio should display your receive frequency, the repeater's transmit frequency when monitoring the repeater. We don't do that a lot anymore because most people like to see the call sign, right? And we refer, it's just a change of times. But I know you remember those days, any of the hams that have been around 15 or 20 years longer. We used to use the frequencies that way. Offset, it's important to know the offset of what band you're using with it. And that, the standard for most of us, of course, 600 hertz for 2 meters and 5 megahertz for
That's
UHF.
And the standard is 147. It switches over to plus, but in our case, we have to force it to go negative.
Negative, yeah.
Did you say
So you need-
600 hertz or 600 kilohertz?
kilohertz,
Kilohertz, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
5 megahertz for UHF.
Yeah.
I didn't,
Anybody know what 220 is off
No.
the top of your head?
no,
1.2 megahertz.
It's different, yeah.
So, yeah,
I
it's
didn't know what the 10 meters was.
10 meters is 100 kilohertz. So, and those are questions on the basic exam, right? How do you know that? You have to memorize it.
We
That's
all
the
just
only-
flunked.
Yeah, what
Turn in
about
our
6 meters?
license? Turn in our licenses.
Now, most
I
repeaters,
didn't
use-
flunk.
yeah, most repeaters use a standard
Me
offset.
neither,
and-
because I didn't answer.
You bad putty.
Better to be what? Remain silent and thought a fool than speak and remove all doubt.
There you go. So, a lot of you have probably seen this type of book. This is the ARRL Repeater Directory, and they make them for each year that come out, and it's like a telephone book. It's got all the frequencies and offsets and everything listed in this book. You know, always great to have one of these, throw it in your glove compartment. So if you're ever traveling around once COVID's over and done with, now they've got programs that you can do off your computer. And we've talked about all of this and that. But if you need a quick reference guide, all that information is in a book like this.
I used to buy call sign databases on CD-ROM, you know, back in
This
the
one
day.
here,
Now you just look it up on
Yeah.
the internet.
you would,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, you know, what's there. And now you get an app on your phone, right? That goes, and if you remember, Rusty, we used to get our Garmin GPSs programmed too, so that they would pop up on that too.
yeah.
So all kinds of things you can do with it. So here you go with it. Oh, I stand corrected here. It's got 1.6 megs with it. So yeah, 100 kilohertz for 10 meters, 1 meg for 6 meters, 600 kilohertz for 2 meters, the 220 band, 1.6. I don't know what 1.2 was in my mind for, but 5 megs. And then 902 is 12 megs, and 1240 is also 12 megs. So that's the standardized. Now, is a club allowed to change that standard offset frequency?
The committee, you got to check with the committee, correct?
Well, basically, good answer with that. Yes, you're allowed to set whatever transmit and receive frequencies you wish to do so. However, in doing that, you have to make sure you do not interfere.
If you want to keep friends,
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you interfere with another repeater that's part of the international band plan, then it creates a bit of an issue and a problem with it. Yes, absolutely. But you will find in this directory, there are different groups that have, weird offsets for the simple reason somebody driving through their community, okay, unless they knew that, they're not going to be able to access their repeater. They have to look it up and say, oh, their 2 meter repeater is a 1 meg offset instead of 600 kilohertz. Because most radios have these programmed in them already as a standard. You will see under your sets, you'll see a repeater shift, okay? And your radios, whether it's a Kenwood, an ICOM, Lenco, Yaesu, have these standard offsets pre-programmed in there with it. again, you've got the plus or minus, the dupe, right? DUP, duplex, plus or minus, or a plus and minus symbol. And when you look at the display on most of your readouts on your radio, you will see that plus or minus displayed. And in the repeater directory, what you will see is a list here. And let's see if I can zoom right in. You see those plus and minuses that are beside the frequency?
No.
You don't see that right here along
No.
this list here?
I do.
Yeah, I see it, yeah.
Yeah, we see it.
See, and that will tell you whether it's a plus or a minus beside. So it's got the shift on there. Okay,
Al, is that book updated on a yearly basis?
absolutely.
So if I can, if I want that book, do I order it through the ARRL? So I just go to
ARRL.
the, just go to their site?
Absolutely. As a matter
And
of
how much
fact,
how much do they sell that book for?
$20.
So here is the latest one that I got. If you buy a subscription to ARRL, they'll give
Yes.
it to you for free.
Okay,
So here's the latest edition. I haven't even taken it out of the plastic wrap yet. What they had to do, as things started, they've had to go to a larger booklet now because of the number of repeaters and because the amateur population is aging and their eyesight is failing. To read this is somewhat difficult. Okay, if you go into this booklet, it's a lot larger and able to see it. Now, what I've done since I started being an amateur,
But that little booklet is nice to put in your glove compartment. Like I have one here too. I bought
Oh,
it at Radio World. That's
Or
why I
you
got
Radio
it.
World, how much did you
or
pay
you
for
can-
it?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't
You
remember.
can just program the your cell phone with the app, the Repeater Book app, which
Yeah.
revolves around your location, and so it will change.
Yeah, well, I've got that app and it only shows about maybe 10 or 15 repeaters, eh? Because of the location you're in. Well,
Well,
Sometimes you can change the footprint. Sometimes you can change the,
it's
There's-
showing, it was showing 50 miles and then it was show, I think, 100 miles, I think, and 150. And that's as far as it went.
that's part of your settings, but it changes depending on your location. If you're mobile, then it's going to change the further you go. It's going to
Okay.
bring in the different repeaters in
Yeah,
that.
but it works fine. But I mean, if you want to find a repeater, let's say 500 or 600 miles away, you know, it won't.
How are you going to talk to a repeater 500 or 600 miles?
No, it's to find a repeater, I guess, to program it into the radio.
back in
Before you
the
leave.
day, what I think it was called Travel Plus for repeaters or something. You put your route on a map that you were going to travel, and it would give you a list of all the repeaters along your route, and you push a couple buttons and you can program your radio with all that stuff.
What program is that called,
It
Rusty?
was I think
Travel
it's called
Plus.
Travel Plus for repeaters.
That's
Travel Plus.
that's included with the programming software that you can get now for the different radios. I forgot what it's now, but I'll look it up here.
Yeah,
So if you're saying if I have
right.
an ICOM radio, there is
Absolutely.
a
So
program
here.
for it?
You see this?
Yeah.
This is the CD.
Nice.
Okay, you
Okay.
can buy it,
There it
put
is.
this in your computer.
Uh-huh.
When it comes up and you do your RT system software, you go down the options and you go down and it'll say Travel Plus for repeaters. So what
Okay.
happens is you set this up previously and it will take the list off this and download it. Okay.
Onto your from the computer onto your radio?
Well, it'll download it into your RT systems. And then
RT
you just
system,
hit-
and then you transfer it to the radio.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I got to get that book then.
Yeah.
This is
Well,
all
I'm-
things that
Yes?
These are all things that I want to get.
I'm just looking at repeater book, and it
Yeah.
gives you a radius of 1,000 kilometers.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what happens, not to make it confusing, all right? When you load this program in here, and let's say I'm traveling from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan to Orlando, Florida, and I'm driving Highway I-75 south. I can set up the parameters on either side in a circle radius of I-75. So let's say I set up, I want to know every repeater on 2 meters from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan to Orlando, Florida. I take my cursor and I follow down I-75 through all the states. And what it does is it'll put a 20-kilometer radius, a 30-kilometer, a 50-kilometer, a 100-kilometer radius, 150-kilometer radius. Now, as Rusty was saying, from a mobile, you're lucky to get 30 kilometers out of your mobile radio, okay, with your antenna and your mobile radio. So to go beyond 30 kilometers or 30 miles is unrealistic, because you may pick it up if it's a good repeater up on a mountain range or something, but the majority is you won't. So you list 30 miles either side of I-75 all the way down. What it does is it then goes to the directory of GPS coordinates, and it downloads every repeater in Michigan, every repeater in Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida, and puts them all in a list, compiles it on this disk, and then you go to your RT systems and say, that file I just created off that, I want to download it into my RT systems, and now it populates all those things in sequence. So now you put that into a program, load up your radio. I'm in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. I go to channel 1, there's the repeater. Channel 2, there's the next repeater. Channel 3, there, as I'm driving south, and all of a sudden I start losing that repeater, I change the channel to channel 4, and now bang, I pick up the next repeater that takes me for another 20 miles down the highway. Then go
What's
to
that CD called, that program again, Al? Travel Plus?
Travel Plus for repeaters. Now they come out with a new one every year. Okay, this is a 2012 to 2013 edition. Okay, and that with it.
So
And
where do you get this Travel Plus repeater CD?
Radio World.
Oh, you
get
can
it
buy
at
them.
any
Okay.
amateur dealer, HRO, DX Engineering.
Yeah. Okay.
And ARRL. That's who puts it out, right?
Oh, and
So,
okay.
ARRL. And what they used to do is they used to say, okay, you bought a subscription to QST and stuff. Do you want a free directory that you can look at in a book, or would you like the Travel Plus?
What does it cost? What does it cost for an ARRL subscription?
Okay, hang on here.
No, it's not focusing.
$39.95 for the disc.
No, but for a subscription to the ARRL.
$56 a year.
56.
US.
Okay.
Yeah.
56. Okay. So it's worth your while to be a member then.
Well, they give you one of these for free, right?
Yeah.
So, but I've been collecting back in, this was one of the first years I collected, 1988 to 1989. Okay. At that time, $5. Now the directories are about $9.95. They're about $10 for a directory now.
Well, that's a couple of other things I have to get my hands on.
Well, it's kind of interesting because what I,
Just in case the borders open up later on this fall.
well, they're handy to have, and you know how people collect things? What I did, I've got a drawer here you can't see, but I've got every directory since I first got licensed back in 1986. Now, I missed 2020 because of the COVID. I didn't order one offline, and I didn't. I see every year when I went to Dayton or one of the Hamfests, I would buy one, and that. So anyway, okay, how are we doing for time? Oh my God, it's almost 11:30. So directories, the ARR repeater directory. Talk about the devil. Thousands of repeaters on the amateur bands. Think of it as a phone book for repeaters, right? Great device to have. And of course, what happens with repeaters, it's like telephone numbers. As soon as they print the book, it goes out of date, right? So that's why I bought one every year. It didn't change that much, but occasionally you'd wonder, geez, I've got a repeater directory 3 years ago. I went and loaded in that repeater and it's no longer active. What's happened? Well, it's gone down, or owners have changed, or you know how things happen, right? Travel Plus for repeaters is a CD-ROM version of the repeater directory. Electronic format allows more information, a lot more features than a book can. So it gives you that ability to set up banks of repeaters. So let's say you wanted to go to Mesa, Arizona, and put in every 2 meter, 440 digital repeater, whatever. You could set up your own bank, go to this directory, okay, set up the parameters. I want all the repeaters listed, and bang, it would calculate everything for it, put it on a file that you can now load into your radio.
So how would you save it, as a root? And then just put all the,
Yeah.
once you transfer the information to your radio, you would have a bank saved for, you just punch in that particular root.
So it would say, what city do you want to save it for? So if you
Yeah, so
put
it's-
Mesa,
Uh-huh.
okay, then it said what radius around Mesa do you want to save the repeaters?
Well, it'd be like 3,600
20
miles,
600 miles,
3,600
around-
miles.
3,600 miles around Mesa, Arizona.
Well, I want to go from let's say from the Sioux to Mesa.
That
So I
Travel
wanna save-
Plus
I wanna
repeater
save a
will
route.
show you. It'll show you the route, and it'll show you all the repeaters that you will be within about 30 kilometers of along your route. That's
Yeah,
what
you don't want to put every repeater in the USA in there. My
No,
God,
just your route.
You can do that with this. This is what I said to you, Claude. Yes, you
That's what
can do
that's
that.
for.
You go down I-75 or whatever roads you travel, you take the cursor, and what it does is it highlights the roads that you're going through each state.
Yes.
And it'll give you 30 or 20 or 50 kilometers on either side of that highway. And
See,
it
I
will
can
come,
save, like on a Garmin GPS, I create a route and I'll
Yes.
save it, let's say, I'll save it under the name Mesa. So when I punch in Mesa, I get a route that comes up. So can I save something similar to that in my radio?
Absolutely.
absolutely. This is
That's
what
what
this
that's for.
program does.
Okay.
Yeah. And it'll give you every repeater from
On that
Chaging
route.
to Mesa.
Yeah, within a 30-kilometer radius.
Well,
give or
whatever
take.
you set it to.
Yeah. Okay.
You wouldn't want to go over 30 kilometers because
No.
when you're on a highway and a repeater is 50 miles away, you're not going to hear it.
And you've only
No.
got so many memory channels too. Now modern radio, back in the day, you had an extremely limited number of memory channels. Now you've got 500 or 1,000, and then maybe a few banks of 1,000 or something.
Well, the ID 5100, what does it got? 980 or something like that, Al?
It's got 1,000.
1,000? There you
See,
go.
that all depends on whether you have the GPS hooked up to the radio so it knows where it is.
Well,
If you
yeah,
don't have
can do
GPS
that
hooked
too.
up, it doesn't know where it is.
Well, then you have to manually switch. But yeah, if you've got it, like, used to travel with my Home Patrol when hooked up to a GPS, and it would automatically switch talk groups or switch frequencies. You know, it would change its programming according to where I was. It was,
It's all built into the
Yeah, but I can have
Star
GPS hooked
radios.
onto my cell phone.
D-Star
Well,
radios
no,
do
you-
that for
You
you.
don't need it.
You need it for you have it for the 5100. A lot of the D-Stars have it built.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Oh
You
yeah, well
do,
this one has a
but-
built-in GPS in it.
But let's say, John or Claude, you don't have GPS. Let's say you're using it for just a radio that doesn't have GPS, okay? Because every repeater is listed with the GPS coordinates and you're personally picking the route, okay? As long as your car stays to that route that you've picked, you're going to hit all those repeaters along that route, right? Even though you don't have a GPS in your car radio.
channel
Yeah.
1 will get you from here to the Sioux or whatever. And then
You just
channel
have
2
to
will
keep
get you from the
changing
Sioux to
channels
wherever.
till you hit a repeater.
Yeah,
That's
but
it.
if you have the built-in GPS, it'll automatic change the repeaters, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, that is so important.
Well, yeah, to clarify, the list available to you within that range is constantly updated by your location.
Mhm.
Okay, Good.
Yeah, it's like the scanners, right? I have all the latest scanners, whether it's a Uniden or a Whistler or whatever the case is, they have the same thing. It picks up the frequencies, right? So I drove from here to Florida. I didn't have to program one frequency. I turned it on, put the parameters. I want to hear police and fire. Set those two things and it'll pick up every state, municipal, sheriff's, county. And as I'm driving through each state, the scanner automatically changes.
Makes for
So
some
we're-
interesting listening too.
Oh, yeah.
Al, I have another question for you. If I have a diamond, let's say with a 3 dB on 2 meters and a 5.5 dBs on 70 meters, would that antenna be good to give me, let's say, 30 kilometers either way?
Oh, easily.
Yeah, okay.
Easily, yeah. I'm able to work on my Diamond 7500. I'm able to work RMI right from Little Current right to downtown Sudbury.
On a
Well,
good
this
day,
diamond is
too,
it's an NR77,
Yeah, well, it's
on a
going to
good
be
day,
fine.
We could tickle RMI from
38 inches,
from
eh?
the bridge.
I
from
think
the
it's
Yeah.
38 inches long.
Yeah, that'll be fine. No, 30-kilometer radius or 30-mile radius on one of those antennas, no problem.
Okay,
If it's a half decent repeater. The repeater's got no ears or the receiver's pooch, then no, you're not going to hit it. But normally the majority of the repeaters.
I just want to make sure I got all the bases covered so that it won't be the antenna or it won't be my radio
Your
that's causing the
mileage
problem.
may vary.
What's that, Rusty?
Your mileage may vary.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's the same way we answered Janice when she asked about HF. Right?
Maybe, a definite maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
Janice likes to throw money at it, eh? And I don't like to throw money at it.
yeah, there you go. All right. Well, let me.
I'm
finish
sorry,
this
I'm
up
getting
here.
everybody off track here.
Oh, no, it's good. They're good questions. This is definitely what this is to do.
Yeah,
Electronic
throw the
format.
money and it works.
Yeah. So again, the Travel Plus for repeaters allows you to find repeaters along a planned route. All right, makes it a little easier. With most programming software to program your radio's memories with the proper repeater information. So, I mean, it's all there. Before, what I used to have to do is go through the directory and say, okay, my next city is Lansing, Michigan. So then I'd go to Lansing, Michigan, I'd look up all those frequencies and then write them down and then have to physically program them in the radio. Something like this, oh my God, it makes life so much easier. You just bang, boom, 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 and it's in. You know? So.